Hello, friends. Welcome to the multiverse section of our live stream, which is a daily live stream. And today we have a topic about the Milky Way. We have seen that Milky Way is not so simple as it seems. It is not a flat disk. So, what are the specific features that we want to discuss? Let us find out. Well, friends, Milky Way is a very large place, and it is also our own galaxy with billions of stars and many trillion planets similar to Earth, and also similar to solar system other planets. So it's a fairly large place, and we don't have full understanding of the Milky Way, even though we live in it. And every day there are new discoveries which are coming up, and we also know that the Milky Way is about 12 billion years old, and our sun is about 5 billion years old. So we know only this much, but what are the different things which are present? Is there a link between extinction cycle on the planet Earth related to the weather system which prevails in the Milky Way? We also know that based on the speed that sun rotates the center of the Milky Way, it has already gone around the entire Milky Way 20 times since its birth, and it'll probably go another 20 more times, because the life of the sun has been estimated to be about 10 billion years. So these are few facts about Milky Way, but then there are so many other things that we are learning on everyday basis. Now, as I said, Milky Way is a very large place. Across from one end to the other, the light itself takes about 100,000 light years. So it's a very large place. It's 100,000 light years is the estimated diameter. But recently, based on the current findings, we believe now, the scientists believe that the Milky Way may be much larger. And because of the changes that it has happened, happened in last 12 billion years, we have wrongly estimated the size of Milky Way. And now the Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxy, which is nearby, is on the collision course, and we feel that Andromeda is twice the size of Milky Way. But based on the recent findings, we now believe that the Milky Way will probably as large as Andromeda. That means now the estimated size of Milky Way is about 180,000 light years. It is almost twice as compared to our previous estimate. But why this anomaly is happening, and why we are learning about these important facts now? This is because of the basic fact that Milky Way is not alone. I mean, the Milky Way is a system by itself, and there are about 28 to 30 dwarf galaxies rotating around the Milky Way. These dwarf galaxies are the smaller galaxies which are probably pulled in by the gravitational forces, because Milky Way is a large object, so it will have a lot of gravity. And especially Milky Way also has a very large black hole in the middle, which is many million times the weight of the sun. So obviously Milky Way exert a lot of gravitational pull on the surrounding space, and because of this gravitational pull, it has been able to gather the satellite small galaxies. These are the satellite galaxies which rotate around the Milky Way. But this rotation is not similar to what the planets planet around the stars. This is a collision course. That means when the Milky Way is attracting other smaller galaxies, they are coming towards the Milky Way and eventually will collide with the Milky Way. So it is not like a satellite forever, that they will have these small dwarf galaxies will have a set defined orbits around the Milky Way. That is not the case. They are on the collision course towards the Milky Way. So many of these dwarf galaxies would have collided in the past with the Milky Way, and probably because of these collisions we see certain features of the Milky Way. For instance, we also now recently came to know that Milky Way is not a flat disk. It has ripples, as I'm trying to show you in this picture. It has ripples. Now ripples, if you stretch them, then you will probably get to the real size of the Milky Way, and that is why scientists are now saying that the Milky Way real size would be about 180,000 light years, which is almost twice as compared to our estimates previously made. So because of these ripples, the size has gone up suddenly, and these ripples can be very easily compared with the ripples that you see in the water. Suppose there is a drop in the water, the droplet will create these ripples, kind of a thing. Now, as taking examples of the water and seeing these ripples, exactly the same pattern we see in our Milky Way. It is actually going up and down like that, and obviously this is all happening because of this some disturbance on the surface of the water, or something hitting the surface of the water, that creates the ripple. So something might have hit the Milky Way, and that has caused these ripples. In fact, scientists have even found the culprit, that is this Sagittarius A dwarf galaxy. Now, this is a small galaxy and it is going around, and since it is in the close orbit, and eventually it will merge completely into Milky Way. This is the picture that the scientists get today as of now, based on our current readings. Now this galaxy is spiraling, and it has already touched a couple of locations on the Milky Way, giving that disturbance in the field of the Milky Way, creating these ripples. And it is, as per our estimate, it has done this already 3 times, and it will continue to do this unless it is completely merged. And the white portion, the streak that it leaves behind, is mostly can be seen only in a very high energy spectrum. So something strange must be going on in the path that it is leaving behind, and whenever it comes close to the one of the spiral arm of the galaxy, it creates a ripple, because obviously the Sagittarius A dwarf galaxy is a dwarf galaxy, but it is a galaxy, so it has a lot of gravity and a lot of other stars which are there in this small galaxy. Now, for each collision, because of the increased gravity in that area, there is not only ripples created, but also the sudden burst of fresh star formation. So scientists now believe that because of such collisions, the Milky Way always re-energize the star formation, and new stars are formed and new planets are formed because of these collisions. Now this is something very peculiar when it comes to Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, because this is creating the ripple, and probably there are other collisions in the past also would have created multiple ripples. So far we know that this is because we are able to see this galaxy and is still not merged completely, so we see these ripples. But past collisions, we do not know what might have happened, and there could be other feature in the galaxy that may be available, and further research is required in terms of understanding why the galaxy looks like the way it is today. Now let's go back to this collision that is happening, and as I said that it has already collided with our Milky Way 3 times, especially towards the outer edges. And if you basically examine this whole collision in the X-ray spectrum, this is the kind of feature that you see. This is a picture of the Milky Way that you expect, and you can see that in the X-ray the material is much more than what we see in the visible light, and we also see a lot of disturbance all around the Milky Way because of such collisions. That means there are invisible matter, and that is still matter, not the dark matter. The invisible matter is still there, which is not shining like star, but it has a lot of energy and emitting in the X-ray spectrum, and we now suddenly see the size of the Milky Way is more than the double of what we see in the visible light spectrum. So there is a lot of material, there is a lot of churn happening all around the Milky Way, and because of this the ripples are also created. And one more thing, that recently scientists about a decade back found out that our Milky Way was not as quiet place as it is today. It was a quasar few billion years back. That means the central black hole was very energetic and it became a quasar. And a lot of material started falling into the central black hole, and because of this material getting into the black hole, it became an active galactic nuclei. It is called active galactical nuclei, which emits very high energy particles on both sides from the poles. And this was the case a few billion years back, when the Milky Way galaxy was a very active place and a lot of energy was being released by the central black hole. Now the central black hole has suddenly become very quiet, and it is not showing any signs of any sort of energy emissions. But when we look in the X-ray spectrum, we see these bubble kind of structure, which is predominantly leftover of the previous quasar status of the Milky Way. And these huge structures are if you see, measure the width of these structures, it's much, it makes the size of galaxy much bigger. So these are called Fermi bubbles, and these Fermi bubbles are basically only seen in the X-ray spectrum. And whenever the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, which I was talking about in the previous slide, whenever it passes through these Fermi bubble, it actually gathers this high energy X-rays, and that is the reason that we see the path of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy. And that's how we are able to understand that it has already passed 3 times, because we see the leftover radiation of the path of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy when it collided with the Milky Way and created this ripple structure. So I mean, this is something that is recent, that the Milky Way is not the flat disk, featureless flat disk. It has lot of features. It is filled with lot of surprises, and there are lot of other dwarf galaxies around Milky Way which are waiting to collide. So we can expect lot of action in future. But as of now, as of today, this is something that I wanted to talk to you about. If you have any comments, any suggestions, feel free to send us your comments, and better would be to participate in the live stream so that I can respond to your question, any suggestion, any query live. So friends, look forward to receiving your comments, and as always, thanks for watching. I will catch you tomorrow again in the multiverse live stream. Until then, please take care, and bye bye for today.